today's Vlogtober vlog, I thought this might be a good time for me to give you an update on my ADHD treatment and how things have been going over the last 2 years. If you saw my Vlogtober vlogs for 2020, then you know about my diagnosis and the frustrations that I was going through trying to get an Adderall prescription so that I could start treating my ADHD. So I figured you might be interested in knowing what changes have happened in my life since I've been on Adderall for the last 2 years. You may recall when I took my first dose that it made me feel a little bit edgy, but I think that had more to do with my trepidations with taking the medication than it had to do with the actual effect of the medication itself. But after I started to get used to the medication in about a week or so, it started to make me sleepy for some strange reason. But over the next few months of taking the medication, it pretty much leveled out, and I didn't really notice any physical effects from taking the Adderall, but I could certainly tell a difference in my concentration. Now, Adderall isn't a cure for ADHD. There's nothing that you can do or no medication that you can take that can make ADHD just completely disappear. But I could certainly notice how much it was able to help me keep my focus and concentration where I needed it to be, and it made a lot of things easier for me. But there's been nothing that has helped me deal with ADHD more than getting my original diagnosis. Because I was starting to understand why I was the way I was and how my brain worked, it made dealing with certain things a lot easier. It's strange sometimes how some people with undiagnosed ADHD will put themselves into situations that make their problems worse because they feel like they should be able to handle certain things, and so they push themselves as sort of a punishment for not being able to do them in the hopes that this strict discipline is going to be able to fix them. It's very much like someone with a broken leg who refuses to use crutches because I should be able to walk on my own, damn it. Knowing that I have ADHD and being able, therefore, to develop systems which allow me to overcome issues that I have has been a big help to me. But I do have to say there was a bit of a snag in the road. Now, you might recall from my 2020 vlog that I had some issues originally getting my prescription for Adderall approved so that I could start taking it. Well, back in 2021, I needed to get a refill of my Adderall, and my doctor had to approve it, which your doctor has to do that for every refill. You don't get refills. You have to get it approved every single time because Adderall is a controlled substance. And so I called the doctor so that I could get the approval sent to my pharmacist. I waited a week and the pharmacist didn't get it, so I called the doctor again and they said they were going to send it in, and I waited another week and it didn't come in, and I called in again and then waited another week and the pharmacy hadn't heard anything, and I decided to give the doctor a little bit of time, and the prescription wasn't called in. And I had an appointment with my doctor and mentioned to him that I was been waiting weeks for my Adderall prescription to be sent in. And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll take care of that today." And then I waited 2 weeks after that, and still the prescription hadn't been called in. I don't blame my doctor for that specifically, even though he said he would take care of it. Ultimately, that falls upon his staff. And I have no doubt that he told his staff to call in the prescription. I don't feel like this was a situation where he didn't want me to take the medication anymore but didn't want to tell me. I mean, obviously, that would have been a terrible way to handle the situation anyway. I know that if he didn't want me to take the Adderall, he would have said so. And of course, that would have been another issue. But after weeks turning into months and still not being able to get my doctor's approval into the pharmacy, I decided to look at getting another general practitioner. And I wound up finding someone who works in the same building as my cardiologist, so it of course was going to be very convenient for me. And I had my consultation with the doctor, and we talked about our issues, and we made some plans about making myself more healthy. And as I'm leaving the parking lot from my doctor's appointment, 15 minutes hadn't passed from the time I left the doctor's office that I was pulling out of the parking lot, that I got a notification on my phone that my Adderall prescription had been approved and was ready to be picked up. 15 minutes was all that it took. Again, I want to state categorically that I'm not blaming my general practitioner for my not being able to get my Adderall. One of the issues that we've been seeing is that a lot of these smaller doctors' offices are being eaten up by these larger hospitals. Now, this has allowed a lot of these smaller offices to continue doing business and have kept them alive. But the problem is a lot of these offices, when they get absorbed by these larger hospitals, any problems administratively that these bigger hospitals have wind up becoming the problems of these smaller offices. And that's what happened here. A large hospital wound up taking my doctor's small practice over, and it's a hospital that's not very well known for their organization and their administration, and my doctor's office suffered for it. And so I realized after 2 months of not having my Adderall that I wasn't ever going to get it if I stayed with the doctor that I had. And so I did wind up getting a new one. And I've been taking my Adderall ever since. I know that I've been really lucky with the fact that I was able to find a medication right away that has been a help to me. I know not everyone has that experience. I know there are a lot of people with ADHD that are still trying out medications and nothing really seems to work for them. Believe me, I understand how frustrating that is. Back in 1999, when I was going through a bout of depression, I was seeing a psychiatrist. We tried everything, one medication after another, and nothing seemed to work. In fact, I didn't get any kind of relief at all until my general practitioner decided to send me on a sleep study, and I found out that I had sleep apnea. It was the sleep apnea that was the cause of the majority of my problems, and so my psychiatrist could have been putting me on medications forever and nothing would have helped. One of the big problems with treating mental issues is that it's not an exact science. There's not a one-size-fits-all for every type of condition. There is a lot of trial and error that still has to take place so that hopefully eventually you find a medication or a combination of medications that will work for you. That's the main reason why a lot of general practitioners don't like to deal with mental health issues in their patients. It's not just a matter of training, but it can very often turn into this huge rabbit hole that you fall into as you're continually trying to change medications, change doses, with absolutely no guarantee that you're going to find the right mix that's going to help. But one thing that I've discovered over these many years is that if you find yourself in that situation and it seems hopeless and it doesn't seem like anything's working, the best thing that you can do in that situation is to keep trying. It may seem hopeless, but if you continue on with it, hopefully one day you will find that thing that works. But you never will if you give up.